Welcome back to Folder Decoder. In this series, I choose a chip folder that I've used throughout the Bound series, or that has been suggested by viewers in the comments to highlight in a video. The idea is to break down each folder to see which chips go into it, see how it works, and then to show off that folder in game. Keep in mind that the folders I feature in this series are not intended to be used in PvP matches. Net battling online is completely different from playing through the story and post-game content of each Bound game, and while I do have some knowledge of PvP in Bound 6, I don't have enough knowledge in the other games to recommend any PvP folders. With the disclaimer out of the way, let's take a look at today's folder. Today, we're going to be returning to Bound 5 for a folder that can be played in either version of the game. I haven't really focused on any folder that revolves around Navi chips yet for Bound 5, so I figured that we can use a Navi chip today. Specifically, we're going to be looking at a folder that uses the Cloudman SP chip as its biggest damage source. The Cloudman SP chip works in a very interesting way. When you activate this chip, Cloudman will summon dark clouds behind your enemies, with one cloud spawning on each empty panel behind them. Each of them fires off a lightning ball, dealing 110 damage each when the Cloudman SP chip's damage is maxed out. If you're playing Team Colonel, this is easy to pull off since you have access to Chaos Tomahawk Unison to completely destroy Cloudman SP. Because the Cloudman chip attacks by spawning clouds behind opponents, you generally want your opponents to move up close. You can use the fan chip to pull in opponents, of course, but I think that Cloudman SP works best against opponents that you know will move forward, such as Blizzardman, Gridman, and Larkman. Of course, this means that one of the best chips to combo with Cloudman SP is Double Point. Not only does this chip give an extra 60 damage to each lightning ball, but it also gives your enemies some of your area, letting you spawn more clouds if your opponents move forward into the area you've given them. You can also use attack plus 30, as well as a few copies of Navi plus 20 to max out the damage of the Cloudman chip. With Double Point, attack plus 30, and 2 copies of Navi plus 20, Cloudman SP is buffed up to an impressive 240 damage per hit, for a total of 1200 damage if 5 clouds spawn behind your opponent. However, we can make Cloudman deal even more damage than this. Spawning 5 clouds requires your opponent to be in your back column. This can work against the previously mentioned Navis who move onto your panels for some of their attacks, but there's another way of increasing the damage of this chip. Since Cloudman SP is an elec type chip, you can double its damage by using it against enemies standing on C panels. So of course, we'll once again be using the CC chip in the star code for this folder. That makes 3 Folder Decoder episodes for Bound 5, with 3 mentions of C-Seed. I think I might like this chip. By hitting opponents on C panels, you can actually deal more damage with just 3 clouds than you would with 5 clouds and no C panels. Overall, at max damage without full synchro, Cloudman SP can deal 1,440 damage. Funny how that number keeps on popping up in Bound games. This essentially means that with full synchro and full damage buffs, Cloudman SP does 2,880 damage, the same amount of damage as the Silver Bullet combo. This might already sound good, but there's a catch. This amount of damage requires a lot of setup. Fortunately, there are a lot of other good chip options in the C code that you can use alongside Cloudman SP as supplemental damage. First off, there are other elec type chips that can be put in the folder. Elec Reel 1, Custom Volt 2, and Super Shaker 2 all come into C code, letting you use Magnet Soul in this folder. This not only works well with the CC chip, but also gives you a way of forcing opponents into their front column via Magnet Soul's charge attack. Other chips you can use that come into C code include Boy Bomb 1 and Silence 1 in case you want to try using Kernel Soul in the folder. It may not sound like Kernel Soul complements the Cloudman chip, and if you think this way, you'd be right. However, there are some non-element chips that can be used for arm change in this folder, including Scully 1, Pulsar 3, Guard 3, and Curse Shield 2. I personally like throwing the former 2 chips in just because I like using Scully chips for confusion and Pulsar chips since they don't cause flashing. Lastly, there's 2 other big damage sources in this folder. The first is the Program Advance. Fortunately, Cloudman isn't the only Nebula Navi whose chip comes into C code, as you'll also have access to the Cosmo Man chips. These chips can work well with the obstacle chips I mentioned earlier for Kernel Soul, but more importantly can be used for the Cosmo Prison Program Advance, which is basically Gator at home. And lastly, we have access to a strong offensive Giga chip, the Cross Divide chip. Of course, that last one only works if you're playing in Team Colonel, but this does show the fact that this folder can be used in both versions of the game. And of course, we do need to mention the ever-present Fast Gauge, Full Cust, and Invis chips that I use at all times. With this folder, we do want to try and set up our big Cloudman SP as quickly as possible, so fast gauge is an important addition, though you can also consider using slow gauge if you want a strong custom volt 2 instead. With the folder's explanation out of the way, let's take a look at it in action. And that's all for my BN5 Cloudman SP folder. There really are a lot of good chips that come into C-code in this game, to the point that I've actually used C-coded folders while playing through BN5 casually before. I do plan on playing a casual BN5 run again on my stream soon, so I might end up using C-code chips once again in that run. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel for some more BN content. In addition to these folder decoder videos, I also make videos going over specific chips from throughout the series, as well as essay style videos about various BN related topics. And if you enjoy watching BN gameplay, I do both casual and challenge runs of the Battle.net games on my stream. And as always, thanks for watching.